Okay. Sprinting.
What is happening, everybody? We got MLB live before lock tonight. Full slate to break down tonight between myself and Eric here. So if you guys got any questions, you know the deal. I see we got a super chat waiting for us already. If you guys got questions for us in Discord, hit me up in Discord. I'll answer any questions you guys have. Myself, Eric Slurp King, he's pressing the buttons in the background again. And I told Jordan that if I remembered that name today, which you never know, I could have forgotten about it, could have remembered. If I remembered it, though, I think it's going to stick around for the long term. So Slurp King Jordan Klein, I think that nickname is here to stay. The man who DoorDashes Slurpees while he is producing shows. So show Jordan some love as well by liking the video and subscribing to the YouTube channel. And shout out to Malukar, who left us a super chat. So Malukar, who's really one of the most wholesome people in our community, he says here in his super chat, he says, "You may have noticed I've been quiet the last few days. I'll be honest. I think I saw you in chat. I didn't notice you missing, but he says he's been quiet the last few days because he wasn't drinking. 5 days of sobriety from Alucard. Thanks for putting up with me. Dude, there's nothing to put up with. You're just a good dude who's in the YouTube chat. The people we have to put up with, it's like the Brandon Katzes of the world, or, you know, porn bots or whatever. You're just a good dude. We love
Jordan
you.
Klein.
And congratulations. 5 days of sobriety. So, yeah, if that's fantastic. If you're doing like a detox or something, Malukar, and you're going to go back to it, that's cool. If you're not going to drink again, that's cool as well. So looks like you're happy with what you got going on there. So shout out to Malukar, and then shout out to Chris Williams as well, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Eric, any overall thoughts on the slate? We got a 10 gamer today.
No, I'll just tell my guy Malukar over there. I mean, just keep putting in the work. I had a friend that, I've got a lot of friends actually that don't drink, and they always say it works if you work it. So just keep doing your thing, and hope you're well, my guy.
There we go. And listen, I mean, as we recently found out, if you're looking for something else to drink, you could DoorDash yourself a Slurpee. You could be known as, I mean, Jordan's the Slurp King, but maybe it could be like the Slurp Prince or something like that. So
you could be the Prince of Slurpa-Slurpistan. Slurpa-Derpistan.
Let's start getting into the slate. Oh, one thing I did want to bring up with you. We did get word that Corey Seager is going to be load managed, and I don't really know what that means. Does this mean he's going to be pulled out of games early? Does this mean that he is going to start less games? What's your opinion on that? Because we've never seen this for hitters in baseball. We've seen, innings limits for pitchers. This is the first time I've ever seen a team come out and say a hitter is going to be load managed. What are the implications of this for DFS or betting?
Well, when you have so much money wrapped up in a guy who's been so successful, and by all means and purpose, like he has been by far the best player on the Texas Rangers this season. I mean, it's him, and then probably number 2 is Kirby Yates. So it's pretty tough to want to roll him out there in meaningless September baseball games. What I guess happens is we see him DH a lot, and I don't think we'll have to think about it so much. Like, if there's a guy who throws at 106, like that guy from the Angels, the closer for the Angels,
Ben Joyce.
Ben Joyce. Just couldn't think of it off the top of my head. But like, I think when we see stuff like that happen, where you might see him come out of the game just so he doesn't get beamed on the hand, like, part of the nature of playing any sport is you have a chance to get hurt anytime you take the field. And one way you don't get hurt when you take the field is by not taking the field. So Texas, they have so much money wrapped up in him and, unfortunately, Marcus Semien for the next however long, and they really cannot afford to have him be dinged up. So I totally get it. But my guess is what we end up seeing happen is the Texas Rangers just decide to DH him a lot going forward. And I don't think there's a ton you should be doing to like freak out about it now. He's not in the lineup today, but like just having as a mental note, if he's going to be crazy chalk potentially on 2-3 game slates, maybe you do reduce it a little bit. But don't forget, like, a lot of what we're going to talk about is the primary matchup, which is the starting pitcher versus the hitter. And I don't think I'm going to make any kind of tweaks to Corey Seager for that going forward. But did you have any other thoughts about it?
Not anything too different than what you had said. I do think it's at least a worthy concern that is he going to be pinch hit for frequently in games. I do think what happens here, though, is they play him like every other day or something like that. Like, I don't think there's going to be scenarios where it's like, hey, Corey Seager only one at bat, like none of that kind of stuff. I don't think that's what it's going to
Right.
be, but it's at least something we never seen before. It was worth bringing up. And that also leads us into our pitcher conversation because we've got 3 pay up options. One of them really chalky, the other 2 less so. Chris Sale, just pulling crazy ownership. 10,800 on DraftKings, pitching at home against the Rockies. The Braves are something like minus 350 favorite on the money line. You got Chris Sale, who's also been the best pitcher in baseball this year in a great matchup, 64% owned on a 10-game slate. Your other 2 pay up options, Paul Skeens at 19% owned, Luis Castillo at 17% owned. So Paul Skeens, another pitcher who's being load managed to an extent. I still think we're probably getting a decent amount of pitches out of him. He's the second most popular pitcher overall on the slate, despite some of those concerns. So let's talk through these high-end pitchers, Eric. And they're the 3 most popular pitchers on the slate in the order of price. The most popular pitcher, like I said, Sale at 64%, Skeens 19%, Luis Castillo 17%. Starting with Sale on the high end, what are you going to do with him at crazy chalk?
84% of him.
Let's see. My run of Sims, I have him 85%. So we're pretty similar there. I get that he's crazy popular. If you look at the offenses, though, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I do think it's pertinent when we're talking about pitcher ownership. You got the Dodgers pulling 11.5% ownership as a stack against Reed Detmers. That's the only really popular stack. There's not another stack on the slate that's pulling north of 8% ownership. So with that said, if you're playing Chris Sale at pitcher, you don't have to worry too much about ownership beyond him just because it is so spread out at offense. I do think it makes it a little bit easier to roster him. You are going to run into, in single entry, some issues if you play like Chris Sale and the Dodgers as an offense. That's going to be crazy popular. But so with pretty much any other offense, I think you're good to go and you don't have to be too concerned you're going to be duped really heavily. So I'm good with the chalk on Chris Sale. You don't have like a 20% on Coors team or something to consider.
Yep, that's exactly the way that I feel about it too. So, I mean, play a lot of Chris Sale in large field. If you're playing one lineup, I find it impossible that I wouldn't click on Chris Sale in that as well. I'm playing single entry. I'm playing some 20 max stuff. I'm playing a couple of other tournaments scattered around the board, and he will be in a majority of what I do.
If you were playing a lot, because I mean, both of us have a ton of Chris Sale in our portfolios, but not 100%, which means we are playing some other pitchers. Paul Skeens, 19% on, Luis Castillo, 17% on. If you're paying up for a pitcher who isn't Chris Sale, Eric, do you lean towards Paul Skeens more or Luis Castillo? And related to Skeens, how many pitches do you think we're getting out of him tonight?
I'm going to say 84, 5 innings. This is dumb, but I think it probably matters the innings based on the wording that we've gotten from Pittsburgh. I think it's like a hard cap of 5 innings. So like 15 strikeouts potentially. He'd need to strike out 40% to get to 7 above it. I've thought about it a lot from a betting perspective. I think the juice on like the 7.5 on the under was just absolutely insane. I haven't looked at it in the last 30 minutes because I was talking NFL, but I am looking at Paul Skeens as a guy that I can't play over Luis Castillo. I get that Paul Skeens has the better strikeout stuff. I get that it is wind slightly blowing in Wrigley Field yet again, which was great until it wasn't for me in the 8th inning yesterday, and the Cubs blew that money line ticket. But I'll just take Luis Castillo, or I'll take like rest of range, where I think you're going to see more than 5 innings. Like, I don't think there's any circumstance where Paul Skeens gets out of the 5th or gets out of the into the 6th inning today. Is that your impression? Because they did say he's on an innings limit, not a pitch count.
So I think they're going to be cautious with him, but I think if he's like hyper efficient, they let him go a 6th inning. 7th inning, no. 6th inning on the table, but not the most likely scenario. By the way, his strikeout prop, which reflects this, it's over under 6.5 now, heavily juiced towards the over. It's minus 132, and I'm using FanDuel for reference to look this up.
So this is
over 6.5 minus 132 for Paul Skeens, under 6.5 plus 104. So expectations of right around a 7 strikeouts or so for him. It would be hard for me to justify under 6.5 strikeouts, even at plus money, though, just because you would think as well with him pitching a little bit less that he could air it out a little bit more in those innings. Yeah,
this has been happening a lot lately. I know that it's happened forever and ever and ever, but it hasn't affected me as much when, I was playing a lot of pick'em, but now, as I'm playing a lot over the last couple of years, at sports books and focusing, most of my content around that and getting bets and getting money down at opportune times. I saw this a lot during the Olympics where the number would be sitting at like 13.5 for the finals or 12.5 for Steph Curry points, and it would be juiced towards the under. And then all of a sudden it would drop to 11.5. It'd be really heavily juiced towards the over. It's almost like they want to get these insane handles on both sides. And I feel like that's what we saw with Paul Skeens today. He was at open -150, and you can see this over at OddsShopper too by just looking at the graph in the bottom left corner by clicking on that icon and opening it up. But it opened at 7.5, -150. And now it's flipped around where if you want to be betting the over, you're paying heavy juice on that over in a way where like, oh, but Eric, you could have bet the over at 7.5 at +1. Yeah, you could have. You could still do that in the alternate market. But like, it has gotten ridiculous how this has happened a number of times when there's news or injury news with NBA players or with baseball players with like a workload management thing, but an actual workload management that matters that you can capitalize on, such as, Paul Skeens here. Just be very, very careful of that as you're getting your betting information, because things can change on a dime based on price. And I've had so many people reach out to me today. Eric, what are you doing with Paul Skeens? And I can't remember a baseball player where I've had more questions about in the course of a month than Paul Skeens. And so I've just been staying away ad nauseum. If something changes, I'll let you know. But like, my God, everybody wants to know. And I think the best course is just staying away from these numbers.
And then also, what doesn't get enough attention? We talk about how NBA coaches lie all the time. The baseball, terrible with this kind of stuff, the information they give out. Remember, not that long ago, you and I were texting about Tarek Skubal because we got word that he was going to be restricted in some sort of way. He's made 3 starts since that came out. Do you know how many pitches he's thrown in innings in those 3 starts?
Well, the thing is that he basically was like saying the same stuff, not the contract stuff like Garrett Crochet, but I know he's pitched a ton because he had that absolutely electric outing where he went like 8 innings or some shit.
So 3 starts since the team said that they were going to be, I believe it was monitoring his workload, which also very bullshit NBA phrase if you say you're going to monitor somebody's workload. 3 starts, 100 pitches, 88 pitches, 98 pitches, and he's gone 6, 5, and 8 innings in those 3 starts. So it's literally changed nothing for him. He's made 3 starts since they're monitoring his workload, 19 innings in those 3 starts. So you're looking at, 6.5 innings and then pitch count 198, 88. So once again, you're still looking at like mid-90s pitches as his average there. So are they going to be like Paul Skeens isn't throwing 130 pitches today? We know that. But I still think that he is somewhat live to roster from a DFS perspective. I do think he's a little bit too popular. Like, he shouldn't be the second most popular pitcher on the slate. And I do go with Luis Castillo over Paul Skeens because of the fact that I think Castillo is a little bit more upside considering what Seattle is playing for relative to what Pittsburgh is playing for. But all this information put together means that Chris Sale is just by far the best pay up option on the slate. Completely justified. He's as popular as he is. If I'm ranking the top pitchers, Chris Sale 1, Luis Castillo 2, who I come in overweight to, Paul Skeens 3, who I come in a little bit underweight to.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm same exact order.
All right, let's go ahead and look at the next range of pitchers. Now, keep in mind, since Eric and I have both already said that we have north of 80% of Chris Sale, that leaves us with like 115% total exposure for the final 3 pitchers. And then when I consider that I've got Luis Castillo in a mid 20% of my lineup, and then I've got Paul Skeens in the teens in my lineups, well, all of a sudden I've got a lot of my pitcher exposures already taken up by these 3 guys. And now it leaves me with, not many spots for the rest of the pitchers. But the 8K guys, we've got Carlos Rodon, Tanner Bybee, and then David Peterson. Funny enough, Carlos Rodon is the 4th most expensive pitcher on the slate and the 4th most popular. The top most roster pitchers just go in the order of price. So Rodon 13% owned. You got Tanner Bybee 9% owned. Peterson is 5.5% owned, who has just insane luck metrics this year. Of these pitchers in the 8K range, you liking any of them, Eric?
Well, I mean, yeah, David Peterson, sub 3 ERA, north of 5 expected ERA. Come on, dude. Tanner Bybee is okay. I think he's my second favorite. I mean, Carlos Rodon is just It's I don't know what to tell you. Like, Carlos Rodon, it doesn't make you feel better, but Corey Seager, I know it's left on left, but like having him out of the lineup, has got to bolster his case a little bit. So I'll probably tweak his projection when it's all said and done, considering, we got that news a little bit ago on Corey Seager. He wasn't in the lineup, and, that's a very important guy. You put Justin Foscue in there, batting sixth, whatever. He's 2K, and people will probably get to some of him. But overall, it is an advantageous spot for Carlos Rodon. The stuff is okay. I'm just not all that enthusiastic to be jamming him in like 30% of lineups. I was getting that earlier this morning. That changed a little bit for me, just as I was tweaking some stuff on some of like his recent outings and looking at some of his breaking stuff. But Tanner Bybee, I think, is the guy that I'm okay getting to. But again, these are not meaningful parts of my slate. Everybody else that I'm getting to is sub 8K.
Just don't have anybody in a meaningful amount of lineups past the top guys. I do agree with you, Tanner Bybee. I have Tanner Bybee in low teens amount of my top lineups. I have him in 13%, so I am overweight to him. If I'm
do we have like the same exposures? This is absurd. This is absurd. We both have 13% Tanner Bybee.
Must be running stuff with the same information here or something.
Be shocking.
But yeah, I mean, Tanner Bybee at $8,200. The matchup against the Royals, not necessarily ideal, but $8,200, a little bit of a price discount from what we've seen in other starts out of Tanner Bybee this year. And there just aren't really other guys to be going to. $8,200, considering the strikeout upside of Bybee, he has a 26.6% K rate this year. The numbers solid, 3.65 ERA, 3.71 expected ERA. Relative to the price, I think there's considerable upside for Tanner Bybee, and more so than any of the guys priced around him. So I'm on the same page as you. If I'm rostering one of these 8K guys, give me Tanner Bybee. 7K range. Also, just because I know that there's no chance that this statement works out for me. There's no chance, because what's going to happen is nobody's playing Peterson. Really, he's 5.5% owned. He should not be 5.5% owned. His numbers this year, I don't know what kind of voodoo magic he has done, but if the season was to end with his current numbers, he would have the luckiest season in baseball history. It is the biggest ever gap between a pitcher's ERA and expected ERA. Like you had said before, 2.83 ERA, 5.12 expected ERA, strikeout rate is 17.9%. If you're considering playing Peterson tonight, don't do it. Take Peterson out of your lineup. That's going to be my advice here. Just don't play him. And the reason I said there's no upside for me in this, because most people weren't going to play him anyway. But what's going to happen now is if he has a big game, people are going to say, look at you. You're a fucking moron. And I would say to them, yeah, but I don't get Slurpee's DoorDash to my door. But that's the reason why there's no real upside for me today. But don't play Peterson today.
Slurpa-derpa.
Slurpee, slurpee, slurpee.
Slurpa-slurp.
7K range pitchers. If we're looking at the pitchers in the 7K range, Brady Singer, Kyle Harrison, Cutter Crawford, Chris Bassett. It doesn't matter who Chris Bassett is pitching against. Somehow he's always projected for double-digit ownership. So a brutal matchup for him against the Philadelphia Phillies, but $7,400. So Chris Bassett is in 11% of the field's lineups. Then you got Ryan Nelson. He is 8.6% owned. Walker Buehler, 4.5% owned, pitching against the Angels. This is how far Walker Buehler has fallen. He is 7K. And he's pitching against the Angels, and people are like, fuck that guy. I don't want to roster him. He's 4% owned. Do you like any of these guys to be contrarian, Eric? Or are you playing Chris Bassett as the lone, somewhat popular pitcher?
No, my second most popular pitcher is in the 7K range. Can you name who it is? I have 31% of him.
All right. Well, it's somebody different than I like then. Because I don't have any of these guys.
I'm obsessed. On Bassett. I'm obsessed actually with him for tournaments today. He's my favorite SP2. I'm playing him in all my single entry stuff.
If it's Walker Buehler, I think you have to castrate yourself.
Yeah, I would actually castrate myself, then hang myself by my castrated self. It's very graphic. I apologize.
I don't know. What goofball are you playing?
The goofball I have in 31% of my lineups is no one other than Ryan Nelson. This guy's made some very noticeable improvements. Now, he's got no, go-to strikeout pitch. Nothing exceeds, a 20% whiff percentage, but it has lately. And here's why. He has been purposely throwing it out of the strike zone a little bit. And I was trying to find something about this last night because I was going through his mix, and I'm like, why is his strikeout stuff so much better? And he only has a 5.2% whiff percentage. What's happening is because he throws a four-seamer 55% of the time, and people, generally will chase it wherever because it's a pretty flat pitch and they can loft it pretty well. he's kind of getting some swing and miss by default going to any of these secondary pitches, specifically the changeup here of late. It's been creeping up to like 10 or 12 changeups, and he's throwing it a lot to lefty bats. Well, wouldn't you know it? Mike Yastrzemski, 26% K rate. Michael Conforto, 25% K rate. A number of these lefties. Lamont Wade Jr., 22.7%. We did get that lineup already, so I'm updating everything for it. They ended up throwing in more righties than I expected. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then switch hitting Patrick Bailey is in there. But San Francisco is number 1 in baseball over the last 14 days, the last 2 weeks, in strikeouts against right-handed pitching. Over the last month, they are 3rd in baseball with a 26.8% it is over the last 30 days, 28.5% over the last 2 weeks. I think it's very noticeable what's happened. Mike Yastrzemski got added to the leadoff spot. They're experimenting, trying different stuff out with this lineup. And as soon as they did, they put one of their higher strikeout bats in a day-in, day-out situation to strike out more. I think this is a very, very sneaky good spot to fire up Ryan Nelson. I like what he's been doing with the slider even a little bit here of late. It's breaking, it's the same pitch, but like it seems like it's moving just a little bit more, and he's not leaving it up in the zone. I mean, if he gets some swing and miss at all with like the four-seamer here, that 55% usage, 60% usage in a couple of these recent starts, he could wipe out 7, 8, 9 of these guys. I looked at the K ladders. I wasn't obsessed with some of these numbers, but I do love over 5.5 strikeouts. It was plus 130 at FanDuel earlier in the day. Still one of my favorite bets of the day. I really think Ryan Nelson has a massive game tonight and a great ballpark to pitch in.
Not currently landing on Ryan Nelson in lineups. There's a pitcher I think is very comparable to him that's cheaper that I am getting to instead of him. So I don't really have any exposure to these guys in the 7K range. I'll ask you the same question. I don't like Ryan Nelson. There's a pitcher I like in the 6K range that I think is comparable to Nelson. Want to guess who that is?
Aaron Savali.
It is. It is Aaron Savali.
He's been good. He's been good. I don't mind it. I have 10% of him.
4.59 ERA, 4.09 expected ERA. Then if you look at his strikeout stuff, 22% K rate. It's not numbers that are going to, like blow your socks off or anything like that. But he's $6,300 pitching at home against a pretty sorry Cardinals team at this point in the season. And then if you look at the other pitchers who are priced around him, if I need to punt with somebody and have to go really cheap, Savali is just, to me, infinitely better than all the guys priced around him here, where you've got Kyle Hendricks, Steven Matz, Reed Detmers, Tyler Phillips. The only pitcher in this range that is like kind of decent that I roster at times is Andrew Heaney, but I hate the matchup that he has pitching against the New York Yankees. So I think the biggest thing for me is if I just have to punt at pitcher, Savali is such a better option than any of these other guys, any sub 10%.
Yep. I don't completely hate that. Savali's fine. I comparable. I don't know, mainly because like, look at Ryan Nelson. The second half, he's been insane for a month, 27.3% K rate. Like, that's insane. We're looking at some pretty noticeably different stuff. And then the matchup's fantastic. The ballpark's fantastic. Like, I just strongly prefer Ryan Nelson between the two, but I get what you're saying because Aaron Savali has no doubt outperformed what I expected for him for Milwaukee.
Yeah, he had a great month of August. Pulling up the August numbers here for Savali. 4.09 FIP, strikeout rate. It's never going to be crazy high, just not a strikeout guy, but 20% strikeout rate for him in the month of August. And like I said, the 4.09 FIP there. He's never somebody who walks too many hitters or anything like that. It's just at the price point. I like him better than the guys priced around him. So I get to him in a double-digit amount of my lineups, and the field isn't really playing him. So Savali for me. Are there any other punts that you're liking below 7K?
Yeah, Andrew Heaney. I'm going to fire up Andrew Heaney again, too. Andrew Heaney makes a lot of sense. Don't forget his last outing was an absolute joke. He warmed up, went and did a bullpen session. 4 pitches got thrown by Crochet, and the game got postponed to the next day. And then Andrew Heaney warmed up again, went out and pitched against the White Sox. They limited his workload to just 71 pitches as a result because they were like, we don't want him to get arm fatigue. Sounds like he's doing fantastic. They gave him an extra day of rest. Don't forget, it's the 31st. So yeah, the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 1st, and 2nd off. This is now 6 days of rest for Andrew Heaney. I know it's the Yankees. This could go very, very poorly, but I don't see how you don't play double-digit Andrew Heaney as well. As I said before, like, I'm under on Skeens. I'm right around the field on Castillo. I'm jamming Chris Sale. Doesn't leave me a lot of salary left to, or not salary, but like lineup spots left. but I just prefer going down and punting with these guys. I'm taking a very strong stance on Ryan Nelson. I do have a little bit of Walker Buehler, but not double digits. But I love getting to Andrew Heaney in a spot where, I mean, just look at his fantasy points per game relative to the other people in his range. 13.4 for Andrew Heaney. It's a very difficult matchup, but you have 6.5 for the Ginn fellow. You have Freeland at 9.5, even though he pitches most of the time in Coors Field. That doesn't help things. Matz is sitting there 5.4, making his first start in forever, since like March or since April. And then Kyle Hendricks, who's just terrible. So like, I don't know what else to say other than Andrew Heaney is underpriced for his ability level and got an extra day of rest to account for that really weird situation we had in Chicago last week.
Got a super chat here from Chris Williams. Chris is saying off topic, but mind doing me a favor, since you guys gotta get stuff done for sure. Let News God or whoever deals with the Stochastic Hall of Fame winners know that I'm ready. Talked to him months ago and said I wanted to save my free month till NFL. Yeah, I just screenshotted your super chat, sent it over to News God. So you'll be all set up there, Chris. And by the way, if anybody else wants to get a chance to get some free stuff for us, super, super simple. Just download the Stochastic Avatar, play with it. DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever you play your DFS. And then if you win a GPP or finish in the top 3, tweet at us at StochasticHOF. And you are going to be able to get stuff like free subs, which is what Chris Williams is claiming right now. We've got rings that we give out to people who have big GPP wins. So some cool, fun stuff. And it's nothing for you to lose. All you have to do is just play with the Stochastic Avatar. You don't have to do anything else. You just download it. You have a win. You tweet it at us. Get yourself a chance to win some free stuff. Play with the Stochastic Avatar. And you win a free sub like Chris Williams did. All right. Anything else you want to add about pitching here, Eric?
Yeah, I have like scattered trace amounts of like that 7K range because I know I got so hot and bothered talking about Ryan Nelson, but Cutter Crawford's okay. His ability level alone. Kyle Harrison, it's a good ballpark. I don't like him. Arizona's been smashing everybody, but 7,700 for him in that ballpark. I'm okay getting to a little bit. Reed Detmers has great strikeout stuff. The worst matchup in ballpark you could ever imagine. And then Kyle Hendricks, I have 2% of. So for me, it's kind of just scattering a couple percents here and there. I'm not capping anybody. I'm not removing anybody, except for if you play an $8,000 David Peterson and he ends up being the nuts, may God have mercy on your soul.
We had the normal question from Clintwood83 in chat. He wants to know which pitchers make the most sense for a DK cash game or potentially single entry. Yeah, that is going to be Chris Sale as well as Luis Castillo for me. Pretty easy for cash games.
Think so for cash games, yes.
And then Einsteinium asked, would one of these expensive offenses going off make it so you don't need Sale? In single entry, if you decided to not play him, how would you go about building a lineup? So that's interesting. If you were playing a single entry team that did not have Chris Sale, which 2 pitchers would you go with? Luis Castillo and Savali for me. And then you're kind of shoehorned into playing the Dodgers as a stack at that point. But if you got Savali and Castillo, if you build a single entry lineup that doesn't have Chris Sale, even though Dodgers are going to be very likely over-owned in single entry, you have a very unique Dodgers lineup that doesn't play Chris Sale.
Yeah, I think Castillo and Ryan Nelson, or Nelson and Savali, just completely punting and going to like the opposite of what I was talking about by playing Andrew Heaney. I do like the Yankees against Andrew Heaney. We did just get word that they're going to start shutting down Corey Seager. Are they going to try to protect Andrew Heaney the same way? I very highly doubt it, but there is a chance of it. And I don't know. I look at Judge, Soto, Stanton, seem like guys that you want to get to when they're not going to be like crazy chalk by any means. Dodgers are by far the most popular, but then our top stack tool has 9.9% for the Yankees, and nobody's rostering them, so they're the most positively leveraged team on our slate. I'll get weird. I'm going to build one out with Ryan Nelson, Aaron Savali. Sounds like fun.
Jordan, pull up the single lineups and let's build a lineup. We're going to plug in 2 cheap pitchers, and then we'll build a Yankee stack.
I want to see it so bad. I'm a little worried that we're leaving so much projection on the table with like Castillo, Skeens, and obviously Sale. And Sale still has to be baked into the analysis, but like for the sake of the question, I'm just removing, you know, that maybe this is a slate where Sale gets dinged up or something. I don't know, but yeah, this is going to be fun.
Let's try it out. So let's go Savali and Nelson at pitcher, Jordan. Savali and then Ryan Nelson. There we go. Now let's click on the Yankees because we'll make a Yankee stack.
Yeah. Judge Soto, Stanton feel like you're just clicking all three in the outfield.
Yeah. Judge, Soto, Stanton, and then I mean we just have infinite salary to play with, it feels like. So go Gleyber Torres at second base.
Mm-hmm. Go Volpe at 4.4K. You just spend it.
I was gonna say Chisholm at 5,300.
I'm fine with that too. In fact, I'd rather go Chisholm and Volpe and then just leave Gleyber off.
Okay. Sweet jazz. And then Volpe. So now we've got 3 spots left. Put a Volpe in at shortstop, Jordan.
Yes, put Volpe in.
Yeah. All right. So then we've got, is that 3,800?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. All right.
28. Yeah. So not what you were saying from before.
All right. So $2,800. So catcher, first base. All right. Maybe salary does become a little bit.
I got first base in that same game environment. Justin Foscue, 2K flat.
Okay. First base, Jordan, Foscue. And then catcher, I don't really care about. So we'll do catcher last. Second base. Second base, plug in, I guess, Andres Jimenez. Jimenez is spelled with a G. It's spelled weird. Gimenez. And then whoever just projects best at catcher, it doesn't even matter at this point. Just whoever projects best that we have salary for. There we go. All right, let's see what shows up. See if this is a good lineup or not. Einstein's question, he wanted to know, could we consider not playing Chris Sale in a single entry here? So we'll see. Survey says no. I think we left a little bit too much on the. I think we left a little bit too much on the table in terms of projection.
Yeah, you got to have Sale in that thing. It's not going to look good. Like, there are ways that Chris Sale doesn't put up 30 today. There aren't very many, according to the way that we're projecting him and the way that he should be looked at today. So I would very strongly suggest getting 2 stacks and other cheapies and doing things to potentially have more Chris Sale rather than say, hey, I'm going to build a lineup with no Chris Sale in it.
Yeah, so my recommendation for Einstein, and play Chris Sale. It is kind of hard to build. I mean, we made a kind of goofy pitcher combination just to try something, but it was also part of his question was if you were going to go expensive at offense. So yeah, maybe the Dodgers would make a little bit more sense, but I'm going to say play Chris Sale in single entry for today. Let's look at the FanDuel pitchers, and then we will talk more about stacks for today. On the FanDuel side of things, Eric, we've got Chris Sale 30% owned at $11,600. There's not another single pitcher on the slate that has double-digit ownership. I'm most inclined to say play Chris Sale over on FanDuel.
Yep, play Chris Sale over on FanDuel.
It's hard for me to justify Paul Skeens at 10,900. Skeens looks worse to me on FanDuel than DraftKings just because we do have those concerns about whether he's going to be able to go 6 innings. That's going to impact his ability to be able to get the quality start bonus. And then also the matchup isn't ideal either against the Cubs. So Paul Skeens, that's a no for me. If I was going to a pitcher wasn't Chris Sale, Luis Castillo's 6% owned. I'm okay with him being the guy to get to. Or you could go Tanner Bybee, $8,700, 7% owned. Do you like any cheaper pitchers on FanDuel?
Ryan Nelson. I like Ryan Nelson a lot, man. He's 8,800, so he's not. I mean, it's kind of awful. I will say this. I'm going to just throw this out there. Reed Detmers at 7K at 1% on FanDuel is not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I don't want to play him. I've seen worse things though. Have you seen the Pain Olympics video?
Or whatever this stupid video is of me doing whatever the hell that Jordan Klein likes so much.
You ever seen the Pain Olympics though?
How did you just have it queued up? How did he just have it?
Watches it constantly.
What's wrong with you, dude? All right, also very good producing, I suppose.
Pain Olympics is still worse though. Pain Olympics is just a video of a guy chopping his cock off.
It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
Small trees fall hard.
That's how they used to do the gender change operations. They just took out a knife and they just removed it. Like, all right, you're good to go. That's worse. I've seen that video. That's much worse to me than you roboting it up. We've got a super chat from Jeff Williams. Jeff says he's playing in the Millie Maker tonight on DK, the 3333. He says that he is going with. Oh, looks. Is that what you're plugging in right now, Jordan? All right. So we'll do Malokar's lineup, and then we'll look at Jeff's lineup. But Jeff is going with Sale. He's going with Ryan Nelson. He's going with Alejandro Kirk, Horwitz, Wagner, Kike Hernandez, Edmund Betts, Teoscar Hernandez, and Varsha. So he's got a Dodgers, Blue Jays stack with Sale and Nelson as the pitchers. Let me see.
You have to say it. Sale.
So I don't really like Toronto today.
I kind of do.
But I don't have an issue with that lineup. You're also lowering. The Dodgers are going to be super popular, I think, in that 3-3-3-3 tonight. But you're playing Ryan Nelson. That could differentiate the lineup a little bit. Another thing too, the Toronto Blue Jays, they're only pulling 5% ownership. I don't really have a lot of them, but actually, as I think about it more, I am not a fan of Tyler Phillips. I like that lineup, Jeff.
Yeah, I love. So one of my favorite one-offs today is Will Wagner. He's like 3K on DK, second base. I've got 14% of him. I'm kind of obsessed.
Tyler Phillips, 5.5 ERA, 5.54 expected ERA. That's in the major leagues, AAA. Which, do you remember when Tyler Phillips first got called up? He was like chalky for his first 3 starts, but he had a 5.27 ERA and a 4.77 FIP down in AAA. Yeah, you know what? I didn't get to the Blue Jays in my first run of Sims. I'm more inclined to just give them a boost, force them into lineups. I don't think Tyler Phillips is good at all. I like your lineup, Jeff.
Good. I was going to say, I definitely like the Blue Jays. So I was surprised to hear you say you didn't, because nobody's playing them for whatever reason. And yeah, it's a 10-game slate, but like, my God, do they look awesome to me.
Shout out to Weatherman7. Left us a little sticker here. Says, how's it going? And just chilling. Just chilling. That pair there, that sexy pair in his workout equipment, waving to us. What's up,
your pair is everywhere.
See, were there any other questions? Mr. Cool Cam asking us our favorite stack on FanDuel for a GPP. So, Eric, much like the Pain Olympics, let's transition here. Mr. Cool Cam wants to know our favorite stack over on FanDuel. What are you liking?
Sometimes that was a fantastic segue. Honestly, I mean, you chopped it up there. I like the Yankees a lot on DK. Not as much on FanDuel. They're a little bit more popular, but that makes sense where you can get to the main guys that you want to get to a little bit easier. I think Seattle's pretty interesting against JT Ginn or Jin or whatever he wants to call themselves these days. I also don't hate the idea. Again, I have like 3-4% of a lot of those guys on the bottom end, but JT Ginn, I know the ground ball stuff has been there in a pretty pronounced way, 61%, but it is such a limited sample size. He's 25. He's been hit up a little bit. Nothing crazy. I just think that Seattle's going way under-owned on FanDuel relative to DK, where I really don't have a ton of them.
Seattle's my favorite stack on both sites. By the way, Jeff's looks pretty good in the Sims there as well.
Spoiler alert.
I think JT Ginn is like Ted Ginn rebranding himself or something like that. Probably. His numbers, terrible. Not just the big league numbers, like you said, it's a small sample size. He's only pitched 8 innings, so you can't put that much stock into it. In AAA this year, he had a 5.72 ERA, a 5.24 FIP. To your point, he generates ground balls. That's the one thing he's done in his limited amount of sample size in the major leagues. He's done it all across the minor leagues. But 17.5% home run to fly ball rate in AAA. So a lot, 1 out of 3 balls in the major league level that he's given up so far that got in the air, they're being hit for homers. Really high home run to fly ball rate in the minor leagues as well. Then you look at his AA numbers this year. They also weren't great. 4.15 ERA, 4.15 FIP. Last year in AA, he had an 8.06 ERA and a 6.29 FIP. I think the most likely scenario here is this guy, JT Ginn, absolutely no good whatsoever. So I really like stacking against him. I just don't think this is a major league caliber pitcher. The one thing that would maybe give me a little bit of pause is if he was just like an opener, but he went 5 innings in his last outing. And also that last start, really heavy ground ball rate, Eric. He only gave up 5 fly balls that game. 2 out of those 5 fly balls turned into home runs. So this guy, I want to be stacking against him. I really like the Mariners.
I do too.
So Mr. Cool Cam, Mariners. That's my single entry stack on DraftKings as well. What are you liking for single entry then?
Yeah, single entry for me is going to be pretty clear cut. I talked about Toronto. I don't completely hate that idea still. I'm trying to get back on my DraftKings stuff. This is tilting. So I had 2 teams that I basically had built out that I'm running in all the single entry stuff. One is a Dodgers stack, but then it is Chris Sale, Ryan Nelson, and then my 2-3 there is Toronto. So I do like the Toronto stacks going up against Tyler Phillips. But the other one's interesting. Nobody wants to play the Angels against a struggling Walker Buehler, do they? Like, and I know Walker Buehler isn't chalky, so maybe it's not like as fun of a spot as what I was expecting it to be when I made it this morning. But I built out the Angels. They're cheap. Chris Sale, pretty easy to stack along with it. Mickey Moniak, sub 3K in the outfield. Logan O'Hoppe, one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. Wind is blowing out 8 miles per hour in Anaheim. It's 82 degrees at first pitch. I don't know. It feels like everybody's jamming the Dodgers, and I think rightfully so, but I really like the Angels at low ownership. Still like a 4.2, 4.3 implied total in Vegas today.
I have 11% exposure to the Angels in my lineups here.
Dude, we're building the same shit today. That always terrifies me.
Angels as a team, to Eric's point there, they're only projected for 5% ownership. Ownership, like we were mentioning at the top, pretty spread out. So there are a lot of teams that are like 3 to 6% owned. The Angels are just in that group of squads. And yeah, I like them. Once again, my favorite team around this ownership is the Seattle Mariners by a pretty wide margin, but Angels are another team I like being overweight to the field too. Got about double the field of them in my run right here, which I don't think too much is going to be changing with. So give me the Angels as a contrarian stack. I'm on the same page as you.
Let's go.
I mean, you look at Walker Buehler. I know there's name value to Walker Buehler. It's something that tricked and fooled us many, many times early on in the year. We were trying to chase that Walker Buehler start that never ended up happening. He's got a 5.88 ERA, a 5.15 expected ERA. If you look at the rehab starts he made in the minor leagues before getting called up, those were terrible too. He made 8 rehab starts in AAA, 32 innings, 5.01 ERA, 4.78 FIP. Strikeouts have been an issue for him this year, 17% in the big league level. His rehab starts, he had a 23.5% strikeout rate. And then also, if you look at back when Walker Buehler was, good before he had his second Tommy John surgery, he was a high strikeout guy, strikeout rate close to 30%. So it's pretty alarming that a guy who had a 30% strikeout rate or close to it in the big leagues was only able to muster a 23.5% strikeout rate in AAA, and now it's 17%. Who knows? Maybe next year there's a bounce back for Walker Buehler with another year of good health underneath him, but I've totally given up on him for this year. And so far to the point that I'm willing to stack against him, even with dog shit offenses.
Yep. Well, I'd say the Angels have above average hitters in the lineup still. I mean, there's nothing that you can say against Taylor Ward or Zach Neto for what they've done this year. I mean, they have both been awesome. Mickey Moniak, more of a positionality thing, but also he's a lefty who lofts it big time. He's one of the guys who routinely is popping in my model. I almost never bet his home run numbers for what it's worth. I think I might have to start as we get down to the end of the year because he's going to play every day. He's been batting 5th here routinely, and he's somebody that lofts it big time. 20-degree launch angle, highest on the baseball. Actually, no, Nico Cavadas, but he doesn't qualify as a hitter yet, so that's neat. He's also been horrific at the big league level, but yeah, I like getting to the Angels just as like a contrarian stack. Joe Adell, one of the better guys you could play in an 8-hole. day in, day out in baseball as well. I don't see any problem adding him to your stacks.
All right, let's go ahead and, well, first, I want to make sure there was no more questions that came in. And all right, we are all caught up there. I want to ask you, what are you going to do with the Dodgers? The only popular team on the entire slate. Honestly, if there's a team you really like that isn't the Dodgers, you don't have any ownership concerns about them. They're not all that popular. It's not the Dodgers. You don't have to worry about ownership. What are you going to do with the Dodgers as the one team on the entire slate that's pulling double-digit ownership?
I have barely under the field, 12% right now. And that's just how many 5-mans I have of them. I guess they have 11.5% ownership share now. But yeah, I think we're going to see the Dodgers, especially in single entry, end up really, really popular. I'm not going to play the Dodgers up against Reed Detmers here in this one. Reed Detmers, he's had good stuff when showing up at the big league level. I mean, 3.74 expected ERA. He got really unlucky and ended up riding that back to AAA Salt Lake, where he's been good. I don't love trying to go out of my way to go pick on him. I know it's a good ballpark for hitting. I know it's the frickin' Dodgers, but I'm basically not going to make a stand on them either way. I'm going to be a little bit under. I just don't see another way to treat it. Like I wish I could just full fade the Dodgers, but I'm not going to do that. I wish I could just jam the Dodgers and just live with the result of it. But do I think they're a little too popular? Yes. Am I going to fade them? No.
So I'm a little bit overweight to the field to them in large field GPPs. The team I have the most exposure to, once again, the Seattle Mariners, second most Los Angeles Dodgers, about even with the field, slightly overweight when it comes to the Dodgers. The one spot I wouldn't stack them in for me is single entry, just because in single entry, I think they get crazy popular.
Yes.
That's where I definitely want to be looking elsewhere, unless you're going really contrarian at pitcher and going to like Ryan Nelson or Savali or something like that, or not playing Chris Sale, but I prefer to play Chris Sale. So Dodgers wouldn't play him in single entry, but to me, them and the Mariners are the two top large field GPP stacks.
Michael Conforto scratched. We have Herrera, Encarnacion getting back in there. That's an upgrade for strikeout matchup. That's an upgrade for my guy Ryan Nelson.
Not incorrect. Not incorrect. So you're going to up your exposure to Ryan Nelson, or just feel better about the current exposure you have to him?
There's a part of me that because I'm playing like 60 lineups and then like I'm not going to play my normal 150 or whatever, but then I think I'm going to play in all my expensive lineups. I'm going to play Ryan Nelson. And there was a part of me that I'm like, maybe I just 100% Chris Sale and Ryan Nelson, just stick it to you so I can have screenshot life for life when Ryan Nelson strikes out 9 San Francisco Giants.
All right, go for it.
I'm not going to, no. That's not going to happen. But it was a great idea at the time, if you ask me.
It was a good idea 45 seconds ago.
It was.
Times have changed.
I'm just like, I'm going to send it. I'm going to shove it to Greg. He doesn't like Ryan Nelson. My analysis is perfect. I don't know.
I don't hate Ryan Nelson. I just like Savali better.
Oh, hey, Greg, Ryan Nelson, Ryan Nelson.
Are there any other stacks that are important to you for this slate?
Cleveland, a little bit. I like some of the lefties up against Singer. Kind of individually went through each bat that I like there, but I mean, the guy's got a 212 expected ISO against lefty bats. We'll get to my home run play. I'll save that one, but it's probably my favorite bet that I've seen in a long time. Nothing like a dude who's only ever double donged. The only time he's ever home runned at the major league level was a double dong. So like that probably tells you who it is. But yeah, been saving that one for the end.
Yeah, and to Eric's point on the splits, so you've got a fairly popular Guardians offense going up against Brady Singer. Singer, great against righties, not good against lefties, which Eric was saying right there. Woba, 231 against righties this year, 374 against lefties. So you got some ownership going to the Guardians, nothing crazy, but it is a team also that I'm a little bit overweight to. There's only 4 teams on the entire slate that I have double-digit exposure to: Seattle, LA, and Cleveland. So Dodgers and Angels. Those 4.
I'm worried that people don't end up clicking on Atlanta. Like, what are you doing with Atlanta? I guess we've kind of been in lockstep for every team we've talked about. The one team that I have like none of right now is Atlanta. They're overowned in our tools, but like I think it's obviously a good spot against Kyle Freeland, but as the most positive or most negatively leveraged stack, I just couldn't get there today.
I have 6% of them, a little bit underweight to the field, not like a team that I avoided or anything like that.
Right.
It's fine. I just like other teams better.
Me too.
Good spot against Kyle Freeland. It's always a little weird to see pitchers who are pitching outside of Coors Field. And, you never know. It's like, is this guy actually competent? But he just has to pitch in impossible matchups for half of the season. But when it comes to Kyle Freeland, he has super bizarre numbers. He's been way worse on the road than he's been at home. So he's not somebody who's really been all that crazy impacted by the Coors Field effects, at least in terms of what his numbers are for the year. Because on the road, 5.51 FIP on the road for Kyle Freeland this year, 3.78 at home. So Kyle Freeland, he's having all kinds of issues pitching away from Coors Field. But at Coors Field, he's kind of been somewhat competent. 3.78 ERA, 4.4 xFIP, just struggling with some of those park factors. On the road, he just gets his ass kicked. So good spot for the Braves. Just another one of many teams on the slate that looks similar to me, though.
With you. Okay, good. I have 2% of them. So I have one lineup of them in 60 lineups. Good to know.
All right, let's see. No more questions that came in. Anything else you want to talk about for the slate, Eric? If not, we'll do our dong picks.
Nah, I feel weirdly good about this one. I feel really good about this slate. I think we broke it down about, as perfectly as one can do. Just smash the like button for us. Did you tell everybody about the fact that football is $1? Did we talk about that?
It's the final thing to talk about on the show. Pull the graphic up here, Jordan. $1 if you guys are looking to sign up for our first slate of the season. It's going to be in 2 days. Thursday night football. We also got Friday night football this week as in a so we got lots of football. There's Thursday night football, there's Friday night football, obviously the Sunday main slate, Sunday night football, and Monday night football. So you're going to have football 4 out of 5 days. 4 out of 5 days. So lots of value, and sign up for a core package, $1. You get access to our single lineup sims for NFL. You get access to our sims. You could sim up to 1,000 lineups on the core package. All that just $1 for week 1. Link down below in the YouTube description box if you guys want to go check that out. Get 4 different slates of football for just $1 and get access to all the tools that we have here. So go check that out. Eric, I'm really excited to hear what your dong pick is. I assume that it's somebody from the Guardians based on what you had said before. Am I on the right page?
Yeah, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is like...
Wait, sorry. Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So it has to be. Somebody who's in my single entry lineup.
Oh, then it's
Kyle Manzardo.
He's my highest owned batter today. Kyle Manzardo is in 30% of my lineups. I rarely get to 30% on somebody. It's a $2,500 batter who at AAA this year had a 142 WRC plus, even higher going up against lefties. And while he's had some strikeout issues at the big league level, 25.5%, that's never been in his repertoire in AAA. 18.4% K rate, 20.8% K rate, 15.2% K rate between Cleveland to Tampa Bay, and then he got reacquired by he got reacquired by Cleveland. But unbelievable that we're getting a $2,500 batter with this much raw power. That is what he is known for. He is a smasher of the baseballs. He's going to be a guy that, they kind of pull the perfect levers at the perfect time. And at 2,500, I know I brought up that 2K batter that I think might get some attention, Justin Foscue. I strongly prefer Kyle Manzardo, considering he has a 230 expected ISO so far against right-handed pitching at the big league level, 22.6 degree launch angle. It is a matter of time before he starts hitting absolute nukes from the left side for Cleveland here. Double donged the other day, like last week sometime. Give me Kyle Manzardo for his 3rd career big league homer.
I don't think we've ever done this before. My home run pick today is Kyle Manzardo. We've never both done the same home run pick.
It's fantastic.
But I agree with you. He's in my single entry lineup. I also get a lot of exposure to him. He is, let's see.
This is the most in lockstep besides Ryan Nelson. So like Ryan Nelson's going to make or break my night, and either you're going to win all the money or I'm going to win all the money because our stacks and players are like the same.
Kyle Manzardo, we talked about the splits that Brady Singer has. I dig it. Kyle Manzardo, he's north of 20% of my lineups at $2,500. Lock him in. Let's see what we have from chat and Slurp King. Get your home run pick queued up over there because I'm going to be going to you in a second. Let's see what we have from chat. Clintwood83 is going with Jose Ramirez. We've got Mookie Betts from Taste the Skittles. Michael Swarrick is also going with Jose Ramirez. We've got Addison Barger from Bob the Builder. J-Ram as well from Eric Johnson. Boy, we've got like, what, 3 of the first 5 people here picked Jose Ramirez. We've got a Nice Kevin going with Kyle Manzardo as well. Sean Murphy from Taco933. Josh Taylor from Chad Rock. Salvador Perez from Mike Campbell. Pete Alonso from Ricardo Nelson. Stephen Kwan from Damian Del Val. Sean Murphy from BX44. Hickler from Michael Pavlik. We've got Vlad Jr. from Piojo YouTube. I think I pronounced that differently and incorrectly in a different way every single night now. David Wayne is going with Brian Reynolds. Marcelo Ozuna from BX44. Jorge Soler from Eric Johnson. We've got Laureano from Reg Caloriano as well from Anthony Harrison. We've got Jaron Duran from Malucar. Jorge Soler from Brandon. Manzardo as well from Francisco Rubio. Vladdy from Pierre. Sean Murphy. I think like BX44. I think I've read like 6 home run picks from him in chat already. Guys, thank you very much. Well, wait, Jordan, before we tell everybody to like and subscribe, Slurp King, what's the dong of the day?
I'm going Kyle Manzardo.
All right,
no, I'm just kidding.
3 for 3. Slurp.
Nope,
Guys,
we're done.
We're
Tommy
done.
Edman.
If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck with all your lineups tonight. See you back here tomorrow.
Go